Is football more fun in the snow? Sports fans sound off on how the white stuff impacts the game with your Bar Talk live on the Brew.
Well, this show topic is definitely timely and topical, being, playoffs for football season and snow. So, Joel, how do you think snow affects football?
How do I think snow affects football? It makes it a lot harder to play. If you played football in the snow, you know this. But, it's way harder to run. You can't plant your feet. It's harder to throw. The grip is a lot slippery, whether throwing or catching or even trying to pick up a fumble. I played many snow football games with any kind of size ball. You could use a college ball, an NFL ball. It's much harder to do, and it's sloppier, and in a lot of ways, it's fun in totally different ways.
So you're saying it makes it more fun to watch?
No, it's not. I would say it's fun as a gimmick. It's fun as like an every now and then game. You put words in my mouth when you said that. I did not say it's more fun to watch. It's more fun to watch a clean game. However, the occasional snow game, they're a blast.
And that's kind of how I am too. It's kind of like a one-off novelty, kind of fun to watch occasionally. But the problem is when you're like got playoffs on the line, all of a sudden now you're dealing with snow interfering with the game. That makes it tougher. And it's kind of cool to watch like the first few minutes. After I'm like, okay. And the second thing is when it starts snowing during the game and it's interfering with like the camera views, and now it's getting a little hard to see. Especially when you get some of those like crazy like Buffalo games, Green Bay games where it really blows the snow off the lakes. It interferes. It looks like trying to watch like 1970s rabbit ears television. Like it makes it hard to watch with these beautiful HD screens, but then it's obstructed by weather. And yeah, I know that's what happens too when planes fly and things like that. So visibly wise, it kind of drives me nuts after a while.
Yeah, it gives it a different dynamic. It's a lot sloppier. It's kind of like when you're playing Super Smash Bros. And you put all the items on. Like any random thing can happen, but the actual skill goes down and the luck goes up, and it makes it more random. So on like for a Monday night game, that's great. But what you're talking about, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those old games where you can barely see what's happening on TV when it really gets going. That's also one of the reasons why they play the Super Bowl in either domes or in southern stadiums, because they don't want it to snow out most of the time.
Exactly right. Or in New Jersey's case, when New Jersey Transit screwed up and stranded everybody at the stadium after the game and was a humongous embarrassment, which will probably never come back here, is part B to that answer. Unrelated, though. But, Joel, our viewers have lots of great answers and suggestions on this one, so let's find out, because Vamos Yankee says yes. Linda, she says yes, more so the snow than the rain, blah. Real Treats tweet says, I love a good snow game. I was at the Steelers-Bears game when Bettis put on his snow tires and ran right over Brian Urlacher. The snow really came down in the second half, and I loved every minute of it. Tony says, yes, it does. I like football in the snow. And Mary says, you can definitely argue that it doesn't make for good football, best team wins, because of the goofy factor it introduces, but the goofy factor makes it fun to watch. Well, hey, Joel, she's kind of agreeing with you right there. But we have a new term for the show, the goofy factor.
The goofy factor is fun, but you don't want to watch it. Most of your games, you want that not to be the case.
The Goofy Factor. It sounds like some new show that Fox is lining up for primetime next fall, The Goofy Factor. I like that title, The Goofy Factor. Let's keep that thought alive. That's pretty good. Richard Poole, he says, I like to watch him play in the snow, not the extreme cold, but I think snow makes it better. Mike F325 says, I enjoy watching it on TV, but I prefer watching live to be dry and 72 degrees. I love playing football in the snow as a kid. In one pickup game as a teen, I was like a tackle eligible, caught a short pass. A bully tried to take out my legs, and I hurdled the SOB and scored. Ooh, nice little story there. And Bugaboo Baller says, easier to get to a game in Jersey than Minnesota. When I was young, before you were born, I was in front of the Magnavox when Joe Namath won. Hey, Joe, remember watching the big screen, giant console television where you lay in the living room floor? The big old Magnavox? We had one.
You guys might be a little too old for me.
They still had those big TVs in the 80s. I know because I broke a toe on one time moving my grandmother's in the 90s. So those things lasted forever, but man, were they heavy.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Not really related to this show, but hey, you know what is? Andrew's comment like this. He says they can play, but most of the game will likely be played like a throw and pass because it is more riskier for players getting hurt, especially if they call for a run game. You can get more injuries and probably fumbles. Well, that's a good point. Injuries. So that is something we haven't really talked about yet. It does make the game much more injury prone.
That's true as well, and that has to go to with what I was saying earlier, where it makes everything harder to do. It's already a difficult sport physically. There's already a ton of injuries. Every player on every team gets hurt. If you even if you add one snow game, all the injury chances go up for everyone. So that's also a factor a lot of people don't think about.
Very, very good point. And speaking of another point, here comes Starmans. He says, forget the snow. What about playing in the mud? That was more fun when I was a kid. Well, yeah, fun for you and fun as a kid, but not so much for your parents when you walk through the living room carpet with all that on.
I remember there was a mud game. It was a Steelers-Dolphins mud game in primetime, and I think it was a 6-3 final. It was within the last 10 years. I think it was just a couple of years ago. It was famous. It was famously a very low-scoring game, and it was because they were stuck in the mud and they couldn't really run or pass or catch or anything.
Exactly. And you know what's crazy, though, to think about it, that's going to happen less and less as they change the grass surface of these fields now. Like, that's not as common as it used to be.
Right. And those, like we said with the injuries, like that's more likely to happen. And the NFL has to go toward a more safer route, especially with all the criticism they keep getting right now.
Absolutely. And finally, though, Jolie has the money shot comment of the day. Put your recorder on for this one, because when it's snowing and cold, it keeps your beers cold and delicious. Well, you can't argue with that. That part is actually true for a drinking web show.
Chicken dinner.
Yeah, I like that. It does keep your beer cold, and they also charge a premium on hot chocolate if you wanted to. That's how they make their money back. But let's go.
Only time to get hot chocolate.
Yes, it is, absolutely. And it keeps your hands warm, too, which is nice. Let's go to the polls right now, though, because the question on the poll this week is, does snow make football more fun? Well, 67% of you said yes, it does. 33% of you said no. So a third of you are saying no, but the rest of you are like, hey, okay, I'm cool with the snow. Kind of goes a little bit, though. I don't think we thought about, like, the injury factor in that. I think they're thinking more about how you watch it.
Yeah, and I think people like the gimmick factor because it's only, once every now and then. And they're like, oh, cool, we got a snow game this week. But when you weigh it, you would not like more snow games than only having one clean game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can tell you there was this one Steelers game I went to one time back in the early 2000s when Heinz Field first opened. And it was a snow game. It snowed a lot. And we had seats on the bleachers. Let me tell you, first off, when it was about 14 degrees out, you're sitting on metal bleachers, and you're also blowing that wind off the Three Rivers there in Pittsburgh. It was fun until about like 10 minutes, and then it was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. It was absolutely freezing cold, miserable. It would have been much more fun to sit at home and watch that thing on like CBS or Fox.
Yeah, and most fans will agree, and I think the league knows that even. So I'm pretty sure they are not going to be booking any more Super Bowls up north unless they're pretty sure it's not going to snow.
There you go, right there. Well, you know what, though? Even though when it does snow, Joel, the big shows right here on the Jersey Joe 50 YouTube channel are waiting for you, and you can stay nice and warm in the comfort of your own home or on your mobile device, wherever you're at, enjoying the fun right here each and every week. Look, once again, I made a promo out of nothing. That's pretty cool. But all right, I agree with you. So snow football, a one-off every once in a while is fun. The other thing we haven't talked about with now sports betting being really big, too. Now, it affects that, too, when you're talking about like your fantasy stats of players. Like, it throws all that into a loop.
Yeah, the bet, the lines, the fantasy, yeah, everything's going to be lower. Everything.
Yeah, so it's almost like they want to try to stay away from that, I think, now. But the way the planets go, it hasn't even snowed yet. It's coming up on the end of January here in New York, and we barely had like 6 flakes over the weekend.
Yeah, don't worry. We got the 5 last years on Earth were the 5 hottest. So, yeah, maybe we don't have to worry about this in like 10 years at all.
Yeah, this could be a mute point. That's right. All right, Jersey Joe, I and you saying thanks for watching. Thanks for your great answers, and we'll see you next time, I hope.
What's in the stars for 2023? Cosmic Colleen is back with her astrological predictions. Streaming now on Kicking Back with Jersey Joe.